Welcome to part 2 of your lesson on conditionals. In the previous video, we looked at conditionals that express situations from the present or the future. We also saw how modals can affect the meaning of these types of sentences. This video will discuss conditionals that express a situation from the past that is contrary to fact, as well as other ways to express conditionals. The third type of conditional sentence we will discuss expresses a situation from the past that is contrary to fact. The first sentence implies that the big one, or the big earthquake that will strike California sooner or later, has already occurred. Unfortunately, it seems that you were not prepared because you don't have enough food and water. Again, the big one has not hit California yet, so this is expressing an idea that is untrue. Let's look at the second example. If I hadn't lost my balance when the shaking started, I would not have broken my arm. This sentence refers to an event that has already occurred, but the truth is that I did lose my balance, which we can assume caused a fall, which led to a broken arm. You may have heard friends say something like, "If you would have told me about the problem, I would have helped you." This is another example that is common in informal conversations, but it is grammatically incorrect. The correct way to express this would be, "If you had told me about the problem, I would have helped you." The following sentences refer to the difference in meaning as a result of the modal we use. If I had had enough money, I would have bought an emergency pack. Refers to the one desired result, which was to buy an emergency pack. If I had had enough money, I could have bought an emergency pack, expresses a possible option, but it also expresses a possibility, as in, I would have been able to buy an emergency pack. At first sight, you may have thought that I incorrectly typed the same word twice, but this is not the case. Here, the first had functions as the auxiliary or helping verb, and the second is the main verb, had, meaning possessed or owned. In addition to the format presented, there are two different types of conditional sentences, implied if and omitted if. With were, had in the past perfect, and should, sometimes if is omitted, and the subject and the verb are inverted. For example, were I you, I would prepare for the big one. In this sentence, the if is omitted, and the verb were is moved to the beginning of the sentence. It is often the case with conditional sentences that the if clause is implied and not stated. If we look at this example, you can see that what appears to be a compound sentence, which is two independent clauses joined by a fanboys, is actually a conditional sentence in disguise. We can tell because the results clause, I would have gone with you, is in the same format as the untrue in the past conditional sentence. While statements with wish do not follow the same format described for conditional sentences, they do use similar past verb forms. But first, let me describe the purpose of using wish in a sentence. Wish is used when the speaker wants reality to be different. In reality, the speaker wishes the exact opposite were true. Let's look at the first example, discussing a wish about the future. Here, the sentence is describing a situation where there are lots of earthquakes, and it seems like there are aftershocks, likely to continue in the future. Therefore, the speaker is expressing a desire for the earthquakes to stop. By saying, I wish it would stop shaking, notice that in the wish statement, the speaker uses would, which is the past form of will, even though the speaker is making a wish about the future. Similarly, the second example, help can't come this week, when the opposite is wished for, says, I wish help could come this week. Here, could, the past form of can, is used. That's the future. Let's look at the present and the past now. In the first example describing a wish about the present, the speaker is stating that he or she doesn't know CPR. In order to describe a wish, the following structure would be used. I wish I knew CPR. Note that even though this sentence is expressing an idea concerning the present, we nevertheless have to use the past tense of know, which is knew. The second example, I wish I weren't shaking right now, also uses the past. We're not shaking, despite talking about the present. When talking about the past, we need to use the past perfect. As in the example sentence, I wish help had come. The second example, I wish help could have come, uses the modal could, followed by the base form of the verb, have come. This completes our lesson on conditional sentences. Use the table on this slide to complete the second part of the worksheet. Follow the guidelines provided to create an original conditional sentence for each of the different types of conditionals discussed in this video. You need to have the worksheet completed before we meet for our next class.